Oh, hello, world. What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. Project Blue Book is based on real-life accounts and declassified government documents and tells a story of how the U.S. responded in the early days of unidentified flying objects. They're kicking off the second season steeped in arguably the most well-known UFO story of them all. I'm talking about Roswell, New Mexico and Area 51. I got a chance to see some of it. It's awesome. Joining me now, stars of the show, two incredibly talented individuals. Please make a ridiculous amount of noise. Join me in welcoming Aidan Gillen and Neal McDonough right here. Do it up. Come on. Let's go.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, congratulations. Season 2. Huge deal. Very exciting. I'm excited to have you guys here, talk to you all about it. How you doing? How's press going? How's life?
Yeah, we're
You
good.
all right?
Life is
Yeah.
good.
It's easy when you get to talk about a show that you love doing and that the audience really loves to watch. So many times we've been part of shows where it hasn't been so lucky to be able to have that situation. But this is one of those shows that we're all so proud to be part of. Obviously, the ratings that were huge. Season 1, Season 2, we really busted open, like you just said, right there at Roswell, right out of the gates. So it's the audience is going to be very pleased with what they see.
I'm excited to dive into it. And you're right. I mean, the audience does respond to this in a big way. We do a million of these shows every day. We do 5 or 6, 7 shows in a row. And you can always feel there's an energy in the room when you got a really passionate fan base. We got a lot of great people here, great audience with us today. So we're all very excited. So thank you guys for being here. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. We're going to kick this off first. I was doing some math. Keep me honest here. But I believe both of you guys kind of grew up around a time when there was no shortage of sci-fi fantasy, Close Encounters and Star Trek and Star Wars.
You love Close Encounters, didn't you?
That was all like prime time for you guys growing up, wasn't it?
Wasn't Hynek in Close Encounters?
Hynek was in Close Encounters.
That's what
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, that certainly is true of the era that I was growing up in, but probably, I would imagine, also true of the previous decade and the previous one and the previous one. It's something that's always there. I certainly noticed it because, me and my brothers and sisters, we had our own Starship Enterprise in the back garden made out of...
Kirk was it. I mean, come on, let's not kid ourselves.
Well,
we wouldn't be here if it weren't for Shatner.
True of a lot of folks.
That's right.
It was made out of paving
Am I right?
slabs.
Yes,
paving
I'm right.
slabs and
Yeah,
a
of
shed.
course I'm right. Shatner.
A lot of love for Shatner in the room.
I was more of a Spock man.
That's right.
But wait, so you had your own enterprise you said in the backyard you guys
Starship
built?
Enterprise, yeah. It was several paving stones and a wall and some chalk. With kind of windows and machinery and, dials and, controls.
I can see that. I could definitely
And we
see
used to, get beamed up.
Were you traditionally, did you fall into the Spock role? Do you have to fight for that?
Spock was good because you could give that thing,
The Vulcan grip.
Yeah.
The Vulcan
right.
grip. But yeah, I mean, Close Encounters was a huge film for me, and as boring, I talk too much about it in the press for this, but I'm allowed to because the character I'm playing on was technical advisor on that film, and Spielberg was inspired by Hynek's writings to make the film in the first place. And Hynek, the character I'm playing, Joseph Allen Hynek, is a real astrophysicist who was brought in by the U.S. Air Force to initially to debunk the UFO myth. So I feel I have a right to bring it up, although we want to talk about
should.
Blue Book and not Close Encounters all the time. We do have a well, I can't really talk about it, but there's a very exciting thing that happens during this season where I get to live out some of my fantasies.
That's cryptic and exciting all at once. Well done.
It's good stuff.
What about you? And I asked this question just to kind of suss out how deep the roots run in terms of, growing up, if you were fascinated with these things and, what it means to you now to be a part of it.
At my age, growing up in the 70s, it was Star Trek, it was Star Wars, it was all this great stuff that was on television and in the movies, and so there was always that fascination with what's up in the sky. Satellites cruising across, and as a kid, you're like, what, is that a satellite or is that a UFO? I didn't give tons and tons of thought to it, although I've been in lots of sci-fi over the years, from Star Trek to Minority Report or whatever, lots of great sci-fi. But this is different. This is really talking about true things that happened, documented through the Blue Books. And for me, my character is based on General Twining, who was the youngest general in the Air Force, in the history of the Air Force. And his job was to make sure that the good people didn't know exactly what was going on. Yeah. And this season opens up which is so great for my character. It opens up back at Roswell and has to talk about exactly the horrible things that I did back in 1947. So you see Harding, where this, the first season I was this really tough kind of general barking guy. This year you see, lots of emotion and rawness and conflict, and for me, it was great to play.
I was gonna say that must have been really exciting when you started getting the scripts in to see where they were taking the general this season.
And they infused, like I said, they've infused Aidan into Hynek. They've infused Neal into Harding, and so they made him Catholic. They made him a boxer. They made him flawed and such, and a family guy. So for me, it was great to really tap into Harding this year because it was getting closer to me, and I love as an actor to play the grayness of characters and the flaws of characters and really kind of magnify those so the audience can see. So for me, this season was, I'd have to say, it was my favorite season of any series I've ever done, and it was really because I got to work with Aidan, I got to work with great actors, I got to work with words by David and Sean that were great and produced by Jack Rapke and Jackie Levine. And Robert Zemeckis. I mean, when it comes to sci-fi and you get Robert Zemeckis there, it's going to be great stuff. And I'm really proud to be part of history and on this show. It's great.
There's a lot of stuff in there I want to unpack and talk about over the next couple of minutes, but one of the things you touched on is the fact that this is based on actual declassified documents, actual events that happened, based on real people, based on Dr. Hynek, all this stuff. What does that do for you guys in terms of your preparation, the responsibility to these characters? It's taken enough creative liberties to tell a great story, but knowing that it's set and based on these real people, does that change how you approach the story you're going to tell and the part you're going to play?
I think for me, mine's loosely based on this character. For Aidan, it's vastly different. It's based on Hynek. And, so there's a lot more pressure on you. Aidan, tell us about that pressure, would you?
Well, I don't find that pressure or that's a weight that's, really difficult to bear or anything, or the fact that our scripts are based on, declassified documents, which are in turn based on real interviews, real reports. It makes your job easy, I think, It's you can make this stuff up. Truth is stranger than fiction. So if you get it right and strike the balance right, and you've got to make that stuff exciting and have fun with it, and sensationalize it a little because it's these things that people are reporting. They are sensational. If you look at a dusty document, you've got to breathe the sensation, back into it 50 years later. I've played, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 or 6. Real, historical figures over the last 10 years, and I like it. There is a responsibility there, but and there's a challenge there, but good,
How deep do you guys go into the source material, or do you stay away from it when you know that you've got this mountain of documents that you could read and study?
I've got Michael Harney next to me as Valentine, and he is a bookworm when it comes to all this stuff. He knows so much, so I don't have to do a whole lot of research. I just depend on Michael to help me.
Michael tells him what to do.
You depend on Michael as well?
No, I don't talk to him. It's all there. It's all there if you want it.
Yeah,
if you want to dig into this stuff for research, there's tons and tons.
They've given us volumes of stuff.
Very easy to fall down a rabbit hole.
Absolutely, it is.
And
it really is.
we don't. Some of the scripts are only written late in the day, so you don't actually have that much time. So in the earlier episodes, you've got more time to research. The later ones, you might get it, 3 weeks before you shoot it, but you're deep into working on the thing you're working on at the moment and just learning your stuff for the next day. I mean, it's a pretty intense shooting process for this show because it looks, really great, but there's 10 hours of that or 10 episodes of that shot in a relatively short period of time. Yeah. So there's,
it's go.
It really is. You're doing 1-2 takes and then move on. So you've got to really know your stuff. There's not really that much time for research or learning once you're a few weeks into the process.
Well, someone asked me earlier, said, what's it like, what's Aidan like? Tell me some stories on the set from what it's like working with Aidan and Malarkey and everybody else. And the thing is, we don't have time to really hang out and talk because we're so busy on tweaking and making sure the scenes are great. So the only time that Aidan and I really get to have conversations is when we come on shows like this and we get to hang out and say, hey, so how's the kids? What's going on? How's life? Blah, blah, blah. So we get to learn more about each other on these things than we ever do on the set.
Far be it from me to get in the way of that. I'll go back there and you guys just catch up for the next 5 minutes. We'll be fine. That's... Talk to me about the show. Looks incredible. The sets, the cars, the costumes. You don't have time to do research, but how far does that stuff go in sort of getting you where you need to be and putting you in the zone?
Well, we know it's kind of eye candy. You know the sets are going to be phenomenal. You know, the wardrobe is great. This year, you know, for my character, we tried to get me out of my jacket and get me into my my general shirt with my sleeves rolled up and kind of be a little more hands-on type of general. And it was great for me this year. But it's, you know, when you're cruising around in, you know, World War II Jeeps and the dusty roads and doing all the other stuff in the set, it's easy to be in that character. And then you have these phenomenal words to play with and these situations that are based on real things. For us, it's really a home run.
Yeah, all of that stuff, costumes, set design, it helps me a lot. I kind of really, I don't know, when you walk into these sets that are built, like the Hynek home studio set, like has a ceiling, you know, it's like a full, you know, mid-century replica with a ceiling. You don't get that many sets in a studio that have a ceiling in them because, you know, it's just much more difficult to light. But speaking of costumes, I like your shirt.
Thanks, man.
See, I love the astronauts,
that.
but I like the shoes, too.
People that have watched the show know that I'm a big space nut. I've gotten to interview a lot of astronauts, Neil deGrasse Tyson, all these sorts of people, and anything space comes my way. I knew we were doing this show. I was very excited to talk to you. I put on my finest little astronaut shirt here today to stay on theme.
I feel underdressed.
No, you guys look wonderful. What are you talking about? Thank you. Well, you didn't
that
have to
shirt
say
may be
that.
missing at the end of the day.
Well, that's how I end every interview. I take this shirt off, I windmill
There
it,
you go.
throw it into the audience, and
Somebody's gonna
that's
catch
it. We know how to put on a show here
My
at
boy
Bill's.
Mark Childs back there is going to catch it, right, MTC? That's my boy.
You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much for calling that out. I appreciate that. You know, one of the things I wanted to ask you, Aidan, coming out of a Game of Thrones, a show that I'm sure you get recognized a lot for that character. That's one of the biggest productions in the world, one of the biggest shows of all time. Is it nice to play a character that people are supposed to trust after coming out of that, where people have kind of been programmed to read everything you do? It's like, I don't know about this guy. Now you get to be somebody people are supposed to trust. Is that fun? Is that nice? Change the pace?
I'm glad you think they're supposed to trust me. But obviously, I'm really getting it across well. No, it is. I mean, I really did enjoy playing that character on Game of Thrones and being part of that, you know, just spectacular story weaving that so many people, you know, invested themselves in around the world for 7 or 8 years. But I like finishing, you know. I love the last day of a job and just taking off the cloak, yeah. And I don't just mean metaphorically, I mean literally in that case. And putting it into my suitcase.
You take it? Did you?
That's right.
But you know,
Busting out every once in a while at home.
I really do like winding down on something after that many years. If you feel like it's, you know, people have done a good job or that your contribution has been, you know, adequate or as much as you wanted it to be, and starting on something else, a good feeling. And I was looking forward to playing someone who wasn't, you know, a boo-hiss villain. Not that Littlefinger was a boo-hiss villain.
There's nothing wrong with boo-hiss villains, though. Nothing at all. Oh, no. It's a good career.
And those characters do have, you know, traits in common as well. So, you know.
For sure. And you're right. I don't think and I don't think any villain is, you know, blankly black and white, boo hiss kind of. There's always a gray. That's kind of the point. You have to, especially as a performer, you have to find that.
That's right.
Otherwise, it doesn't come off as authentic. It comes off as like,
well,
you know,
villains.
Dick Dastardly
If you play
twisting the
villains just
mustache.
one-dimensional,
Yeah.
you've lost the audience. Yeah, the audience has to like and invest in the villain, and then finally at the end, when he does something so horrific, then you're like, oh, that's right. I don't like that guy. Yeah. But you have to pull him in, you know, for the ride.
Yeah. Nowadays, most of the heroes in TV, in the really successful TV series, are anti-heroes anyway.
Yeah,
they're not really, you know, very clearly morally defined, or they are, and it's kind of murky.
Exactly. Neil, I think I heard it was when you were on Band of Brothers that you kind of learned how to leave work at work and not sort of bring that home with you. And prior to that project, you were a little more method. And I'm curious, did that take time for you to sort of de-learn that, to deprogram and learn how to shut off at the end of the day?
Well, I was a theater major at Syracuse University, and we're completely method. And then I went to school in London at Lambda, and it was different. It wasn't a method, and I didn't really understand it or like it. So I really jumped into the whole method acting for the first several years of my career. And then I did Band of Brothers, which my character has a mental breakdown. You know, so I had to immerse myself in this character. And I started dating my wife, Reve, at the time. And after a couple months of dating, she's like, look, this relationship isn't going to work. If you are your character 24/7, if you don't punch the clock and then live your life and then punch the clock to go back to work, it's not that much fun to be. I love you, but this isn't going to work. And I'm like, what are you kidding me? I'm a method actor. This is what we do. And of course, I stormed out. And 3 days later, I was the most lonely, miserable guy in the world. And I went back to Rivet, and I'm like, okay, I think you're right. And ever since then, and that was, but a quarter of the way through Band of Brothers. Then I really understood acting a lot more because I was so focused on my life and enjoying my life more than just being the character all the time. So I could switch it on and off. And so now, during takes, I can emote, fight, do whatever it takes, and then between scenes, I can just go back to being a normal guy and then switch it back on again. It was the greatest acting lesson I ever got from my wife, Rivet. Honey, thank you very much. I love you for that.
I imagine it's a very
5 kids later,
valuable-
it's been pretty great.
It's an important thing to have in the tool set, especially when you're playing these great characters. That could go either way. You have to go to certain places.
Harding, who's losing his mind, for the first few episodes, if I brought that home every day, then I'm giving that gift to my kids. Not very nice, so I had to learn how to stop being 24 hours wrapped into a character, which at the time I thought was the right thing to do. And I'm glad I did it for all those years. But then it was later that, I came out of that, and I think my acting improved so much more.
Is that something, Aidan, how have you always been with that? Do you, easy for you to turn off at the end of the day, especially, with the previous roles and this role, especially in this show with what you guys are doing, all the fun, spooky stuff?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, I've dipped in and out of what Neil's talking about, just depending on, what my life circumstances are at the time. If I'm off in another country where I am on my own to do something, it makes more sense to just kind of stay in it. Or if it's a very intense kind of schedule, or the commitment is high, as in you're in every day, you kind of are. You can't really slip out of it because you're constantly in that mindset. Other than that, I don't really. I don't think about that stuff too much. People tell me that I kind of take it home, but I don't know. Maybe they're right sometimes, and maybe they're wrong, and I honestly don't know.
Nothing's black and white. There we go. It keeps coming back.
Yeah,
we're going to go to the audience in a second because we got a lot of great questions, and I want to make sure we have time for them. But you gentlemen are doing press for this show. It is incumbent upon me to ask you if you believe in aliens. Everyone has to do it. It's part of the rules. But I don't want to just ask that. What I want to ask is how this show has sort of colored your perception. Did you come in a little more skeptical than you are now? Has it changed your perception? Has it influenced your view of life beyond, or what could be out there at all? Doing this research, living in these roles, living in this world, has it impacted that in any way?
Well, I think, I was definitely, I don't want to say I was a skeptic. I didn't give a ton of thought to, what else is out there. But when I started doing the show, it made me obviously think, okay, could there be other things out there? And me being, a Catholic, people think, well, obviously you think that there isn't anything out there. I'm like, well, that's kind of strange, because if God created everything, what's to say that God, who created this universe, didn't create some other beings, maybe not in his likeness, maybe in his likeness? I don't really know. Is there something else out there? There could be. Is it kind of selfish of us and egotistical of us to think that it's just us, a tad, right? So, there could be something else out there. But the great thing about Project Blue Book on history is that we get to have a discussion. We put on a TV show where we talk about something that every boy, at 12 years old, or my daughters are the same thing. They say, what else is out there, Dad? We get to have a discussion and sit around the TV and watch a show and have a discussion. What other shows do that nowadays? My kids aren't going to sit around the TV and watch me on Justified. They're not going to. Oh, Dad, you killed another one. That's a great job. So it's such a blessing to be part of a show like Project Blue Book, because we get to do that. We get to talk about what else is out there, what if, and it makes you appreciate what we have in our lives right now. And I think we need to do that a little bit more than even concentrating so much about what else is out there. It's how can we be better people to make this planet a much better place.
I've always my whole life been fascinated by it. I grew up watching those same things, thinking those same things. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12, I was leaving my grandparents' house, and I thought I almost jumped out of my skin. Something I'd never seen before in my entire life in the sky, and I ran back inside. I stopped, I went back out. It was like nighttime, it was a blimp for the WWE at the time, WWF.
It was Vince McMahon.
Exactly, because the WrestleMania was like in town.
That's awesome.
But for 10 seconds of my life, I genuinely thought, no way, I'm finally seeing a UFO. And then I went back and I saw it was a blimp. It stuck with me ever since.
That's right.
You guys, you've traveled the world. You've done a lot of things. Have you ever been tricked? Have you thought you saw something? Have you seen something?
Have you met my mother-in-law?
No.
Oh, hi, Mom. Hi. You watching?
Do you know what I mean? Though?
Yeah,
some
some similar experiences to yourself. I was out, definitely watching hunting, if you like, in the late early '80s in the post Close Encounters world, watching the skies, looking for things, and the more people look for things, the more things they're going to see, and most of them can be explained. I did see something once upon a time, which I could not explain with some friends, as is often the case. It's often, groups of quite reliable witnesses who see these things, and then they go to call up the local radio station newspaper, which is what we did, to ask if anyone else had reported, and they said no, so we just left it, which is what most people do because you don't want to be ridiculed. It was probably a UFO.
It's exhilarating. It's weird. It's like, oh my God, I'm seeing something. I'm magical. It's a magical moment. It's fun. I might ended up being a blimp, but again, for 10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Oh my God,
was awesome.
I hold on to it.
It definitely.
Talking about it.
Yeah, yours. You're saying it was wild. It definitely wasn't a blimp. I mean, I don't know. We can call Vince now. We can.
It wasn't
ask
a
him.
blimp. I know it wasn't a blimp, and it wasn't a duck.
That's good. You can narrow it down.
Yeah.
That's a wide spectrum. The duck to blimp spectrum.
Vince.
All right. Do you have anything before we go to audience? Any experience?
That's
No, that's it. Cool, man.
go.
All right, let's do it up. We've
Question
got,
time.
The first one's coming to us from Twitter. Is from @TheBlueBookFile. Since there's a lot of danger this season, I want to know if Neal and Aidan think of themselves as thrill seekers in real life. You laughed at that.
Well, I think actors or performers are thrill seekers, because it's well, yeah.
Or just crazy, to pick the square.
Yeah.
Thrill seekers. I don't know if I'm so much of a thrill seeker. I think I'm actually a little bit more towards the boring side, I think. I'm not sure if I'm much of a thrill seeker.
Jump out of a plane or anything like that?
I've jumped out of planes.
There you go. Okay.
I've bungeed.
Okay, the needle's moving. The needle's moving.
He's a thrill seeker.
I have 5 children.
He's definitely a thrill
I think
seeker.
so. That's my. You say 5.
That's right.
No, that's it. Solidifies it.
That's it. Okay, so I'm a thrill seeker. There it is.
We got one for thrill seeking.
That's right.
And you
My days
self-identify
back
as a
in
thrill
Cape Cod,
seeker as well?
Massachusetts.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. It's, you can think, I'm actually really boring, but I think a lot of actors or performers or singers that I know have this kind of dual thing that they're either shy and at the same time kind of quite daring and doing all this stuff that scares them like we all do in our lives. And, so it doesn't set them apart like that. You just, I thought that was the music they were playing me off there.
That's right.
There, get off.
Thank you for that. That was a great question. Thank you for that.
Probably.
And if you couldn't hear it at home, an audience member's ringtone is the theme to Game of Thrones, and it just went off in the middle of the conversation. That was
Come on,
not
how
subtle
cool is
at
that?
all.
That's kinda awesome, actually.
That was fantastic.
Stand up for a round of applause.
Obviously, we're going to call you out. You have a microphone. Was it yours with the microphone? Was it yours? That's fantastic. You're my first question. Okay, so let's go. Go for it.
How fitting.
And let's listen. You asked him all the questions that I wanted to ask.
I apologize, but also thank you.
You're a wonderful interviewer.
Wow. First the shirt, now this. I sincerely appreciate that. You don't have to say thank you, but I'm sure you've got another question for them.
But I do want to say, as I said, he asked all the questions, but the show is wonderful. I enjoy it. You're all great. And that's that.
Thank
Okay,
you very
thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you. Appreciate
Going.
it.
Is it Mimi's going to get into any trouble?
Can we reveal now? We don't
Oh,
want to
she's
spoil
going to
it.
get in some hijinks this year.
There we go. Hijinks.
Yeah, I think
for Mimi.
I think it's been established from the first season that she's the kind of person who will put herself out there and in the way of danger. She did it in the last season, and I hope
She has a really fun season 2.
Yeah, she does. Yeah,
She really does.
Was she? I don't know. I can't find anything about her. Did she get into all that trouble in real life?
Not really. She did quite a lot of remarkable things that were uncharacteristic for women of the time, but probably not exactly what's portrayed in the show. And well, it's not, but it's a version of that.
Yeah.
So she was certainly kind of pushed the envelope, maybe not in that way, but in other ways, and so which we couldn't really get into, or it would have been too distracting from our central kind of themes.
And you thought you didn't have any questions. Well done. Thank you for that. And nice ringtone. I got a few more we're going to go to. Next one, microphone, right there. Nice shirt.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for both being here. I really enjoyed your show. It's my favorite show. My question, which Neil did answer in part, is about character development. In season 1, it was focused mostly on UFOs and the stories. And David Leary said in one of his interviews, either with MUFON or the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable, which I really loved, that there'd be more character development for all of the characters. And I was wondering what kind of character development both of you will be having.
I don't know. I mean, hopefully some, you know.
Put me down for some.
always down for some. Well, look, you know, there is the pattern that we've established, and you know, the formula. I hate to use the word formula, but there is a certain formula at play here, and there is a story every week. There are some overriding arcs. So a lot of, you know, our time, our screen time, our you know, script pages are taken up with just moving story along and you know, introducing big stories that have to be told in 45 minutes, you know. So we think that, but myself and Neil both believe, I think that a lot of the setup having been done in season 1, it gives us just a little bit of space, you know, to just breathe and think and just to be seen in repose, you know. There's not much time for that stuff in these kind of fast-paced shows, but we believe it's there, just slightly different shades of color.
Well, you alluded to something earlier. I think that when you have a second season order, that there's a little more confidence throughout the whole show. The writers be a little braver on some of their choices, which is generally character stuff, where the first season they really want to get, you know, like I was saying about, it's like tennis. You want to get those big ground strokes cooking, so you start a really great team effort, and then finally the second season you're going to the net and trying to score. This year we're really going for the score. We're really trying to ratchet it up and make sure everyone is really loving the characters as much as just the UFOs and the aliens, but really what it was like for all these people to go through these things. So I think this year it's going to be a real treat for the audience.
Yeah, also, first time around, you know, those scripts were written, the actors came along to play the parts, but, you know, they were written before they met us or knew us, but probably knew of us, but they weren't written for us. So second time around, they're writing with us in mind. The writers know the actors better, the actors know their characters better, and their actors know each other better. So it's bound to impact on, you know, how we come across.
For sure.
Season 3 will have the musical episode. I can't wait for that. Me and Valentine just swinging around like the
Kate, I got a few more. Let's do 3 more. We got a microphone in the room. Go for it.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I'm your big fan, Neil, and you're Aidan too. I really like how you play an antagonist in the movies and TV shows. And my question about what are the best role you acted, in your opinion, and why?
Thank you.
For me, my favorite role, you know, Harding's right up top, especially after the second season. I really love where we're going with the character. My favorite character all time is, you know, without question, Buck Compton from Band of Brothers. It was, you know, to get to portray that guy, you know, an American hero, and also, you know, to work for Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks was such an incredible treat. But most importantly, I met my wife Hervé while I was filming it. So. And Buck became like another dad to me. So Band of Brothers was my favorite. A close one, which I alluded to earlier, is a Western that I just did that comes out this pretty soon, this spring, called The Warrant on INSP. It was just great to play the good guy with the gun and you know, saving the day, and that was a treat. But and not to blow smoke up Aidan, to work opposite him and the rest of the cast on Project Blue Book is a treat that I wish anyone could have, you know, because it's been a blessing upon blessings.
Yeah, same. You know, just it's hard, you know, to think way back. I could like, whenever I'm asked this question, the answers can be, there's several, you know, obscure projects that I love that I could talk about, and you know, You can talk about them, but people just don't know what you're talking about. So I would say that I've been lucky. I mean, I've been pretty. I feel like I've been pretty successful in waiting for good roles to come along, and not just good roles, actually good projects. Because it's if the overall project isn't great, well, the role isn't great, no matter what you do. So I've been lucky enough to find my way into 3 or 4 or 5 really good big ensemble dramas. So there's where there's 20 or 30 great characters. So I've enjoyed all those. Probably Tommy Carcetti in The Wire was one I loved, and Aberama Gold in Peaky Blinders, and Stuart Allen Jones in the original Queer as Folk. There's a lot of them. But I just think about last month and in the last year, and I really enjoyed working with these guys as well. You're only as good as the people you work with, and on this thing where the schedule is so tight, you really have to have each other's back, and you just have to, or it doesn't work.
How? Thank you for your question.
so much.
That's fantastic.
very
And we're going to do 2 more, but I'm curious because you both have talked now. You said at the very top you love this show and you love the fans, and you've been part of it where that hasn't been the case. And you were just saying now, like if you're not in a great project, there's nothing you can do to make the role great. I'm not asking for names, but I'm curious how far into the process can you sense this isn't as good as I thought it was? Like, how do you know when you're a part of something that's not what you had hoped it would be? Is it right away? Is it when it comes
sometimes
out?
you don't. Sometimes you think you're on the perfect pedigree. This is going to be fantastic, and it just didn't come together correctly. Sometimes you think you're on something that's just a paying gig, and it turns out to be something completely fabulous. This one, however, right out of the chutes, you kind of knew we got something really good here. The cast was really assembled well. The scripts are fantastic. The subject matter is obviously terrific, especially serendipitous with what's going on with Area 51. So it's been really terrific to be part of something like this. But you don't always know.
I think I'm pretty good at reading scripts and waiting for the right thing to come along. I have made the mistake maybe once in a theatre show and vowed never to let it happen again, because you don't know. It's really not pleasant to be the wrong person in or the wrong person in the wrong role, or just the wrong person in the role. So I waited out and just try and do something different. They're never all as different as I believe they are. I know there's a common. I probably just do the same thing every time. That dog over there waved at me earlier,
And it's gotten in your head.
Yeah.
That's Shaggy. He's a local celebrity here in
Hi,
New York
Shaggy.
City. New York Yankee dog. Shout out. All right, I got 2 more. Let's get 2 more going, and then we'll wrap things up here. Go for it.
Hi, guys. I love how at the end of every episode they show little snippets of how the episode ties into Hynek's work. I was just wondering if you read one of the scripts and you thought there's no way that could be real or something that actually happened.
Well, I think that about all the scripts. I think, could this have happened? The things that we're portraying in here, I would, look at it through the eyes of Hynek, if you like, and I guess what his thing was, he's been portrayed as someone who was a skeptic and who became a believer, which I don't think is accurate at all. I think he's somebody who remained skeptical and had an open mind from the start and till the end, and always gave people the benefit of the doubt, would listen to what they say, would believe people that they what they said, they give they probably think they're telling the truth at least, and to treat it as seriously and to look for evidence to either prove it or disprove it. But as far as I never would think, oh, that could never have happened, because it's also unlikely. It's more like, well, let's see if it could have. That's actually a really kind of interesting but quite tricky question to answer. So I'll come back next year with the answer to that.
Nice.
But thank
That was
you.
a great question. We got time for 1 more. You are the last question, and you are right here. Hello.
Hi. Aidan, I was curious, getting into the role of Dr. Hynek, did you get to meet his family or get to know anybody that knew him so that you could take some of that into yourself?
We were lucky enough to have 2 of Hynek's children be available to us. One in particular, Paul Hynek, who I have, regular exchanges with by either email or text, or I've probably met him maybe 4 times in the last year. Even the first short conversation I had with him when he came out to set was really important, because you're kind of pretty intimidated, I guess, that a family member is going to come out and they're going to find you out, if you like. But in fact, they were very welcoming and understanding that you're an actor playing a role and you're not their father, and you may not look exactly like their father or sound like him, but you're just trying to get the essence across. And just conversations about what it was like around in the house, and during holiday periods to go camping with their father, or have his photographs sent on to me, and all this kind of stuff was really helpful. I wouldn't say that we had huge in-depth conversations, or they revealed anything that was super secret or anything like that, and maybe there's more for them to share with us. But it's just like hanging around with a person who's the child of the person you're playing. You're going to just get something by osmosis. I mean, I believe it helped, in a big way.
Very cool. Great question. All great questions. You guys are an awesome audience. Thank you so much for being here, hanging out, asking those questions. Thanks to those who tuned in live and sent it in the tweet. That was another great question. We're going to wrap things up here. Project Blue Book returns Season 2 is January 21st at 10 p.m. on History. Like I said, I saw it. Do not miss it. It is fantastic. It's everything you loved and more. The show is the best it's ever been. So very exciting time. January 21st, 10 p.m. History. Anything else you want to tell the people before we get out of here? Is that it?
Watch the skies.
Ooh, watch the skies indeed. You were correct to applaud. I saw that. Everybody do it. Let's make some noise and thank Aidan Gillen and Neal McDonough for being here. Thank you. Thank you, guys.